Okay, so here's the scene. The organization you work for recently restructured, and you're suddenly faced with a new reality. You still have your job, but as you look around at empty desks and offices, other colleagues, teams, or even entire departments were not as fortunate. Regardless of your role, which could also shift in that process, these changes can really impact everything from your morale to your workload and even your career goals. In this episode, we're sharing some coping strategies to get you and your remaining teammates through this difficult period of time. Plus, you'll get some helpful tips to adapt and protect yourself from future layoffs. So, even if you're on an HR team supporting employees after a reorg, we hope you'll apply our advice in your own workplace culture. And make sure to stick around at the end because we'll answer some questions that you, our audience, submitted around this topic. And today, joining us, we have Jen Lewi, a certified career coach and owner of Design Your Next Step, an executive coaching and career strategy consulting firm. Jen, welcome to All Things Work.
Thanks, Anne. I'm thrilled to be here and to be talking about this topic.
We're thrilled to have you, and I'm sure you've had quite a few clients maybe who have gone through this type of situation, whether they were laid off or specifically what we're talking about today, if they survived that layoff and what to do next.
Oh, absolutely. I actually live in the DC area, so the government shutdowns are certainly affecting so many people, friends, neighbors, and of course clients. So yeah, this is very real.
It's a big shift for all of us. We're all experiencing. Okay, so just a couple of weeks ago, we walked our audience through what to do if you've been involuntarily terminated in an episode entitled A Roadmap for Involuntary Termination for Both HR and Employees, if you want to check out that episode. This time, we're looking at the other side where you have survived a layoff. And Jen, I'd love to lean into your expertise and jump right into some mini mock coaching scenarios like you do for some of your clients, role playing a few different challenges some employees could experience after a reorg. We'll start with advice for someone's mindset and then expand outward into helping their productivity, then even further outward with how they can support others and their coworkers in the same scenario. Okay, are you ready to jump into it?
I'm ready. Can't wait.
Okay. So, mock scenario number one. Imagine I'm your client. My name is Jeanette. And as the result of the reorg, I'm grieving the loss of my work bestie, work wife, work husband, whatever you want to call it. My remaining team is now scrambled and spread out across different departments, and I might be taking on a heavier workload. I'm feeling anxious, overwhelmed, all the emotions there, struggling with survivor's guilt, and I'm having a hard time handling all the changes. So, what strategies could you share that would really help me cope with this?
So I'm going to go ahead and just unpack so much that is real in what you just expressed. The first place to start is the anxiety and overwhelm that many people feel during a layoff. And I think the best place to start there is self-care and thinking about how you can take care of yourself first, because you're not going to be able to help other people or perform well on the job if you have all this anxiety going on. So the first place is if you have routines that help you be present, whether that's meditation. For me, meditation's really big, whether it's exercise, going for walks, hanging out with friends. You really might be in a place where you think you need to buckle down on work and work harder than ever, when in fact, now is the time to take a bit of a break. Take those breaks that restore you. The second thing I'd say is if it's pretty extreme, you might want to go and see if your employer has some EAP programming or ways to see a counselor or something like that. It might be that significant. So make sure you're okay. So now we're going to get into the other pieces. Your work bestie. There's definitely some grief in losing your work bestie. And Gallup even came up with data in 2024 around the fact that if we have a work-based bestie, we're more likely to be engaged on the job, and it even has results and impact on the outcome of the organization. Redefining the relationship with a bestie is important. So you want to stay in touch with that person and you want that relationship to live beyond what it was. So maybe agree with the bestie that you're going to have some boundaries around work and talking about work. If it's impossible for you all not to talk about work, say, you know, we're going to talk about work for 10 minutes and then we're going to talk about the other stuff. So that's one way to continue that relationship. Then you're at work, you no longer have your bestie. What do? It's a real opportunity to make new connections. In many ways, when you have a bestie, some people think, oh, well, that person's friends with that person, and I can't get in on that. So now you can really redefine your relationships and build better relationships across the organization. So look at it as an opportunity. And then finally, the survivor guilt is very real. And instead of dwelling in the, I can't believe they kept me, I don't understand why they kept me, am I going to get laid off again? Look at what is it that they love about you? Why did they keep you and let all these other people go? Look for the patterns. So, is it that you have a unique area of expertise that they rely on? Is it that you're a great team player and they know that you're going to contribute so much to the organization? Do they see big leadership skills that you have? And I have a client who has survived 25 layoffs. And
Whoa.
I know he managed to
Woo.
in different organizations, 25 layoffs.
He's got a rabbit's foot in his back pocket.
I
Something's going
think
right for him.
so. We were talking about what is it that's keeping you there? And he realized he had this unique combination of subject matter expertise and the fact that his role generates revenue. So it's definitely the type of role that people want to keep. So looking at what those patterns are is going to be important. And remember your strengths. What is it that people loved about you or love about you, and reinforce those strengths as much as you can.
Absolutely. I think that's so smart. And there's you discussed the whole social aspect to it. There's so much more to all of this that happens when you survive a layoff. There's so many restructure, whether it's your social part of your work or just your work. So I love that you addressed all of those points there. Let's jump into the next scenario. Pretend I'm Ricardo, an independent contributor. Since the reorg, his workload has doubled, and he's expected to learn new processes much faster. He's feeling burned out and scattered, unsure how to prioritize or even keep up with these expectations. He wants to manage productivity but avoid burnout. So, are there specific tools or even strategies to create boundaries in order to work well in these high pressure environments?
I love that you said boundaries. And I think the best boundary is communicating your boundaries. So if you say, I don't want to answer emails after a certain time, you communicate to people. You can go ahead and send me an email after, let's say, 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., but I will likely not respond until the next morning. So thinking about what those boundaries are for you, for Ricardo, right? Like, what is the best way to handle that? And then talking about boundaries, I really am a firm believer in your energy and when you work your best. For me personally, my best work is early morning. So I protect that time for deep thinking. Other people, though, their best work is in the afternoon. So really thinking about when do you work best and blocking off that time for deep thinking and for those projects that require you to work uninterrupted is really important. Then I think also finding times of rest. And Ricardo sounds really overwhelmed. One tactic I love is to pause and take a breath between meetings. So if he's in back to back meetings or a ton of meetings, before going from one thing to another, stop and reset just for a minute, take a breath so you can be fully present for the next thing. This Ricardo also seems like he might be taking on more work. He's not quite sure what to prioritize. So getting clear on the priorities is really important. So if he's unsure what the priorities are, ask. And then once he knows what those priorities are, build time around the priority projects. So don't try to do everything. Focus on the priorities. And I believe in prioritizing your top priorities each day. So, not coming up with this laundry list of things that need to get done, but what is that one thing that must get done? And then what are the 3 things you hope to get done during the day? So, one book I recommend is Uptime by Laura Mae Martin, who is the productivity expert at Google. And what she talks about is how to ensure that your priorities get done. So, in addition to knowing your energy patterns, she talks about how after 10 a.m., in most workplaces, you're just going to have to expect to get interrupted. So, get those big things done before 10 a.m. No one's going to bother you typically between 8 and 10 a.m. So try to get the big thing that you need to get done during that time.
I love that. Yeah, and I'm one to get in early because I know that I'm able to focus on a few things and maybe organize my day without any interruptions. So definitely in line. It feels like 10 a.m. is that cutoff time. So I love that. So okay, last scenario. I'm Patricia, a manager of a team of 12. My team is hurting. Some are angry, some are withdrawn. Everyone feels tense. Maybe they're talking to each other and it's riling each other up a little bit. I want to help, but I'm not sure what to say or do. I don't want to make it worse. So, what are some practical ways I can support my colleagues and really help rebuild that team morale to foster connection and empathy, especially in a time of uncertainty for us all?
This is so familiar to me because I have been in that situation one too many times as a leader of teams. And I love that you use the word rebuilding because that's exactly what it is. Business is no longer as usual after a layoff. And as a good leader, you need to acknowledge how much stress everybody is under. They're worried that maybe they're going to get laid off again. There's the rumors that go around during the layoff time around why people got laid off. And there's just so much to unpack. So the first thing around rebuilding is this idea of bringing your team together. And one client I had did this amazing thing where she brought the team together and reinforced each person's strength. So she would have said, "Hey, Anne, I know you're such a great collaborator, and this is why we're so happy to have you on the team." That does 2 things. One is it makes the person feel really good, recognizing what their strengths are. And then it helps other team members understand why that person is on the team. So it's a very effective strategy. So bring your team together, recognize their strengths, and then not to get corny, but you need to do some team building. So that might look different for different people. If you're in a fully remote environment, maybe there's a new Slack channel you're creating for that team and that's where you guys are more laid back and fun. So every morning, maybe you're sharing something fun with the team and you're encouraging that camaraderie. That would go a long way. The other element is you don't want to be in a situation where you're telling them, don't worry, you guys are fine. We're all going to be fine because that's not true. And you really don't know. So, yeah. So instead, you want to help them see what the priorities are, what their roles are, and how they can move things forward. So, really help them see the vision, how they're connected to the vision, and what the goals and priorities are.
Right, you don't wanna make any, empty promises because, like you said, it's a time of uncertainty, and even the managers at the point may not know the full plan or expect 100% what's to happen in the next year, so I think I love that you brought that up, and I think the Slack channel is important. My team and I, we talk in a Slack channel. Sometimes my coworker sends a GIF, and we think it's funny, so it just lightens the mood a little bit. Sometimes it's good to have a team lunch, reintroduce each other. I think that's like, just simple ways, right?
Yeah, I love that idea. And if ever you have these team meetings, maybe allocate 10 minutes to talk about the personal a little bit, to see how everyone's doing rather than jumping straight into the work.
We're all humans, so I think we can all relate to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, those are wonderful insights, Jen. Okay, so we have a grasp of how to handle the stress some might deal with after a restructure, but there's that little voice in your head that you just can't ignore that might ask, how can I protect my future if this happens again? So, my question for you, Jen, is what advice would you give to help employees reframe changes in the workplace as an opportunity to add new value to your employer and growth for your own career?
The idea of adding value for your employer. During a layoff, that's oftentimes when the best work is up for grabs. There's so much work and fewer people to do it. And while it seems like there's a structure in place, it's actually quite loose. So if there's something you really want to do, it's a good time to advocate for a project that you've always wanted to try, a way to grow your skills through a stretch assignment. So definitely look into that. And then the other area I would say is when you're talking about growing for yourself, is think about what your goals are and then how you can get there, whether that's new training that you can make a case for, whether that's networking with people within your organization so you can figure out how to get to that next level.
I love that. It can be quite a challenge, but it's good to keep that in mind. And even as they are trying to keep up and add value to their employer in the face of change, how can an employee ensure their personal career goals also remain a priority?
It sure is. And I could talk about this for days. I think when you think about your career goals, you need to think about what do I need to do now to build for what's next? And the path you were on before the reorg may no longer be the exact path. So there might need to be some rethinking around the pathway forward. So, first off, don't ignore your network. Your network is more important than ever because the way that you're going to find what's next is likely through your network. So, continue building those relationships outside the organization and within the organization. Look at the around you for people who are doing what it is that you really want to do next and talk to them. Ask them how they
Mhm.
got there. And then finally, communicate to people what you want to do next, where you want to go next, whether that's within your organization or outside. No one is going to help you unless they know how to help you and what it is that you want to achieve.
And for someone in the role, let's say a people manager position, outside of supporting their teams emotionally, which is a big deal, what else can they do to strengthen their team and really help them adapt to this new era of the workplace?
I think it is helping them see their value and understand their career goals and how the current organization can continue to help them towards their career goals. The other area is being really clear with what the priorities are, what the expectations are. That will go a long way with the team.
Awesome. I love all of that. And it's just wonderful insight you're providing here, Jen. So each week, we ask our newsletter subscribers to submit questions for an upcoming episode. And we had some great questions for this one. Are you ready to jump in and answer some of them?
I am so excited.
Wonderful. So, to our audience tuning in today, be sure you're subscribed. You'll find the sign up link in our episode description, and your responses to our question of the week could be featured in an upcoming episode. So, let's start with our first question. Sarah from California asked, morale is bad after layoffs in our organization. I'm in a leadership position, and our leadership is embracing a vision I simply do not share. How do I know when it's time to move on? What steps should I take?
Wow. Okay. So, a couple of things. The first area to focus on is it's just after the layoff. So, it's possible this person is not aligned with the vision, but maybe it's still a temporary vision. So, I would say give it a chance. But fundamentally, if the vision for the organization is in misalignment with your values, that's a big sign. To me, that's one of the biggest signals that it's time to move on and change jobs. But it doesn't mean you just like quit tomorrow and off you go. And it also doesn't mean you jump into the next thing that just comes your way. It's an opportunity to be really strategic about what it is that you want and what it is that you don't want. You've actually learned a lot from the fact that you're misaligned with this leadership, and jump into something that is so much more aligned with where you want to go. So look out for that. But I do think if this is the biggest signal that you need to move on.
All right, another great question is Caroline from Michigan. She asked, how can HR help employees identify and pursue career development opportunities when budgets and resources for professional growth may be limited or, in our case, drastically cut? My organization is small, so it feels like we're scraping by and doing all that we can to support.
That's really tough and very real. I think that this happens often after layoffs, and we know that one of the reasons people like to stay in an organization is training and development. So it's time to get creative with the training and the development piece. The first place, obviously, to start is low-cost training, webinars. They might be part of an association that gives lots of freebies. That's the obvious place to start, LinkedIn Learning. But you actually have a lot of expertise within the organization. And if there's a way to leverage that expertise by, first of all, reinforcing the fact that there's experts everywhere, that'll make everyone feel good. And also asking those experts to share their techniques, their training, their ideas, maybe over a brown bag lunch or something like that. The best way to learn is on the job and giving people stretch assignments. So that's another opportunity. And I'm a coach, and I would say coaching, whether formal or informal, is another great way to help people grow on the job.
I love that you brought up, seeking help from others. Mentorship can play a huge role here. All right, jumping into our last question, Antonia from Michigan asks, there's a lot of rumors floating around after a recent restructure. We know that this can happen. How can HR teams express transparency with the sensitivity when communicating about layoffs and organizational changes, especially when not all those details can be shared?
You need to be consistent and know that you can only say so much. So it's a fine balance of empathy and being very clear on what you can and can't say. I think that transparency is also really important. So you can say, I am not at liberty to talk more about this. Or you can say, I don't actually know where this is going. All I can do is help you with your situation. And so, for example, one thing might be, again, to help them with what their career goals and how the organization can support each individual person's career goals.
Well, Jen, we really appreciate your time. And thank you so much for sharing your insights today, walking us through these scenarios, and for our subscribers for providing your questions as well. We learned so much through this interaction.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
It was great to have you. All right, that's all for this week. We'll catch you next time. If you enjoyed our conversation today, be sure to subscribe wherever you enjoy your podcast so you never miss a new episode. Also, did you know All Things Work is more than a podcast? That's right, we're also a weekly newsletter that includes in-depth articles and the latest research from SHRM to keep you in the know. Just head to shrm.org/allthingswork to sign up. Plus, follow SHRM on social media to view the latest clips and join the conversation on game-changing topics that are redefining the world of work.
SHRM.